Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode from the Counterpoint Podcast. My name is Maurice, and I'll be your host again for this week. And today we have a pretty interesting topic that I think shows a lot of promise for future potential. It's connected cars. And I have one of my colleagues, senior research analyst Aman Madhuk, on the phone with me. And we'll be discussing connected cars today. How's it going, Aman?
Going great, Morris. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So, connected cars. Can you walk us through what types there are? I know they're a lot different from what we thought about from even a few years ago. So, what can you tell us about the types of connected cars we're doing research in, and just go into a little bit more detail about that?
Sure. So, when we say about connected cars, a car can be connected through your smartphone, and it takes the internet connectivity from your smartphone. That's one type of connection. And in another type, there is a SIM that is embedded inside the car. So, the car uses its own internet connections. So when we can connect a smartphone to a car through a USB cable, which is called as Ethernet connection, or there is Bluetooth connectivity. We can also insert a dongle inside the OBD port of the car. These are widely available as aftermarket solutions. But in our study, we are tracking cars which have embedded TCU or telematics control unit embedded in the car from the automaker side.
Right. And I think for the most part, while we're looking at the embedded TCU in this section, some examples that some of our listeners might be more familiar with are things like what the carriers have here in the U.S. market, like AT&T has or what used to be Sprint had a whole section for connected cars, and T-Mobile as well. How to basically have the car have connectivity through a carrier, through aftermarket parts. Even AT&T, I think, just launched a new service where you can for the passengers, where the kids are able to watch TV shows while they're in their car, using that connectivity that the car provides. But again, we're looking at embedded TCUs, and so what can you tell us more about this section then that we've been researching for embedded TCUs? What are the drivers for these connected cars?
Sure. So there is for every region, different drivers, but on a global, on a general level, we can say regulations being an important driver for the market. So increasing focus on safety, on driver safety, is pushing regulations towards having embedded modems in car. For instance, eCall in Europe is one such regulations, and also in Russia. So that is one important driver, and apart from that, we are seeing that there is a increasing interest of connectivity from or of connected features and services from car buyers, and automakers are pushing these services to differentiate themselves and also open new revenue streams for them, especially amidst lowering sales yeah, in COVID-19. Automakers are trying to, make some revenue from connected apps and connected services. And moreover, we are seeing like there is a trend of, the whole cockpit is becoming digitalized with a lot of information and connected services, apps, streaming. So all these factors are promoting connected cars.
Right. So there are several drivers really that are pushing this connected car market, and I think certainly it's for the automakers, um, a benefit if we move away from the smartphone connectivity or aftermarket part connectivity to get an embedded TCU. Isn't that right?
Exactly. It opens a new revenue stream for automakers who are already struggling with declining sales due to COVID, and it also, you can know the driver. You can know more about driver, his references, and as they say, data is the new fuel. So yeah, there is a lot you can do with the data that you can collect.
Yeah, actually, COVID-19 is actually a big thing that we've talked about in a lot of our podcasts that we've done. Um, what have you been seeing? Can you just give us a little bit more information about how COVID-19 has been impacting the market?
Yeah, COVID-19, we are seeing declining sales of connected cars due to COVID, and we see that in 2020 there will be a decline in, total connected cars sold. However, this decline is generally due to, suppressed customer sentiments and, lack of car buyer confidence. However, as far as penetration of connectivity in car is concerned, it keeps on growing. And this year, in 2020 as well, it will continue to grow. So, and we are also seeing in general, automakers are not postponing their plans of connectivity. And in fact, the focus or the seriousness towards connected car has increased. So, yeah, overall market will see a decline, but it will be more because of suppressed consumer sentiments.
Right, and I think that makes sense. And a lot of, at least here in the U.S. again, I've seen a lot of different companies try to make car sales easier in terms of how to test out a car, how to purchase a car, and doing it through more online channels, which will try to stem that decline of car sales. But and just for people to get a better context, can you just tell us how long it takes to plan actually to design a car and have all this implementation in it? Because I know you said it'll increase in the future, but it's really because of all the planning that needs to happen right now, right, to have a car available that's connected.
Yeah, so if you talk about the overall life cycle of a connected car or any automobile, it's really takes a few years for designing a car and then bringing it to the on road. So it's very different from what we see in a smartphone, which have the shelf life and the overall life is very less as compared to car, which takes a lot of time in lot of like many years designing and then manufacturing and then approvals and all. Yeah.
All right. So with that in mind, what can you tell us about the growth that we can expect for connected cars? Talking about type of what the penetration is right now versus in the future for connected cars, and what are you seeing in that?
So yeah, we have seen significant growth in connected cars globally, and initially it started with a few luxury brands launching connected cars, and then we see those brands incorporating connectivity in all of their models. And now we are seeing that a lot of non-luxury mass brands becoming very serious about connected cars. And in 2020, we will see almost more than half of cars sold globally will have embedded connectivity in them, and the penetration will grow at a good pace. And by 2025 we expect almost three-fourth of all cars sold, all cars shipped having embedded connectivity in them.
Do you know in terms of our research, what type of penetration will we? will we get towards?
We are expecting close to 60 million cars by 2025 having embedded connectivity in them.
Interesting. And now talk to me a little bit more about what brands are leading the market. I know that there are luxury brands, and there are also more the the non-luxury, the more consumer friendly brands. Um, what are each of them kind of doing for connectivity in their ways?
So yeah, currently, if you talk about luxury brands, brands like BMW, Mercedes, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, so they have been the front runners in connected cars, and they have always, been ahead of non-luxury or mass brands in terms of connectivity. And currently, most of their, luxury brands cars have embedded connectivity in them. So this trend we have seen over the last few years, but now what we are seeing is mass brands or non-luxury brands are also getting very serious about connected cars. um, General Motors and PSA Group have been, leading the mass brands since few years. But now we are seeing brands like Ford and Volkswagen, planning all of their cars to be connected in the next few years. So we are seeing a lot of traction from non-luxury brands as well, and that's also one of the major reasons that is driving the connected car market.
Right. And I think just saw recently Mercedes Benz is trying to implement or has a partnership going with SmartThings from Samsung to be able to, not just have your connected car, but have a car to home connectivity. So, in a way, luxury brands are trying to, seeing what is the next step, what can we do to further enhance this connected car that we're building.
Exactly, you are absolutely right. So connected car, so vehicle is becoming an important component of overall IoT ecosystem. And car is something where generally person spends considerable time going to office, coming back. So yeah, companies are trying to utilize that time to best of their to get the most share of their time. So yeah, it's a very important component, and we'll see more such car to home connectivity, and other brands will also jump in coming years.
Interesting. And now I want to talk a little bit more about what you're seeing in terms of which countries are the leading markets. And I know at least there are the leading markets, and there are also areas that companies want to grow more in. For example, I think I also saw that VW Volkswagen is trying to do a connectivity feature for vehicle assist in India to try to gain some share. But tell me a little bit more about what you're seeing in terms of what the major markets are and what you believe will happen in the future.
So key markets are US and China as far as the countries are concerned, and Europe, European region. So these three, US, China, and Europe, accounts for around three-fourth of all connected cars sold. And according to our estimates, China accounts for around 25% of total connected cars sold, and US and Europe accounts for around 30% each. So these are the important regions as far as leading markets for connected cars.
Yeah, and I think it certainly makes sense because in these markets we have a lot more connectivity in terms of the different network types that are available, and having stable connections in order for these connected cars to really function the way that they do. And speaking of network types, what are you seeing in terms of growth and by network types, I mean 2G, 3G, 4G. Where are you seeing the growth happening for these cars in the next years with the different connectivity types?
So we are seeing automakers continuously moving from 2G and 3G and using 4G in their cars. And this is mainly due to, first of all, a lot of carriers have announced their shutdown plans for 2G and 3G. And as I told earlier, like there is a growing need of data transfer, and lot of collective services are being incorporated in the car, so that requires a fast connection. So that is also benefiting the penetration of 4G LTE. So that trend will continue going forward, and we are seeing like maybe from next year we don't expect any 2G cars to be sold, any new cars having 2G connections to be sold in 2021. By 2025, we are expecting 3G to account only for a fraction of sales. And we are seeing 5G cars will also, start being mass produced in 2021, that is next year. And we see that by 2025, they will account for around 25% of total connected cars sold globally. So yeah, the automakers continue to move towards embed the latest technology in their cars, for the reason because the life of a car is around maybe 10 years, so they want to future proof themselves, and it takes a lot of time to design and come bring the car on road. So it makes sense for automakers to embed the latest technology. So we are seeing a good traction of 4G, and later during the forecast we'll see a good traction of 5G as well.
Yeah, on the 5G aspect, I think, as analysts, we've been saying, this is the year of 5G, or even 2019 was the year of 5G. But really, with the connected cars part and building it in, t- can you just describe a little bit more of like how will 5G be implemented in the future, and which countries are really driving this 5G car market?
Yeah, so we see the key markets for 5G to be US and China. And China is very aggressive in terms of 5G network implementation, and there's a push from the government and tier one suppliers to embed 5G in cars. Huawei has recently partnered with 18 automakers to develop a 5G ecosystem. So yeah, China will remain an important country, a key market for 5G, and we see China to account for almost half of all 5G cars shipped during the next 5 years. So yeah, as far as 5G is concerned, we see US and China taking the lead, and among them, together they would account for three-fourths of all 5G cars shipped during the next 5 years.
That's really interesting stuff. And that's, I think, all the questions I had for you today. I want to thank you for coming on and talking more about this research that you're doing. Thanks a lot for being on the show.
My pleasure, Morris.
Great. And thanks everyone again for listening to the Counterpoint podcast. As always, you can find more of the latest research on connected cars and a lot more on our website, counterpointresearch.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and other streaming music platforms if you're interested in hearing more, the latest and greatest on the technology front. And thanks again for listening to us, and have a good day. Talk to you later.